In Leap 360, there are student reports that are available for both the teacher and the parents. There are two student reports available. The first one is called the Student Response Map, and the second is called the Student Summary Report. So those are the two reports that are the two student reports that are available for both teachers and parents. Let's talk about the student response map, the first one we listed. The student response map is available up to 2 hours after the students submit the test. The student must complete all sessions of the test in order for that student to receive a student response map. If the written responses are not scored by the teacher in educator scoring, there will still be a student response map, but the points earned for that written item will be blank. The second report we looked at or we discussed was the student summary report. The written responses must be scored to receive a summary report. So the teacher must go into educator scoring and provide a score for the written response in order for the student to have a student summary report. Let's talk about the student reports in general. Once the teacher scores the written response, the report will be updated within 24 hours. Okay, so now let's take a look at each of those different reports. The first one we're going to look at is the student response map. And in the student response map, I want to show you something that you could see. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this. And so you could see this when you click on the student's name for the student response map. So if you see this, that means that either the student has not started any test, or it could mean that the student has not completed all sessions of the test. So let's go ahead and look at this comment here. It says the student score reports are available within 24 hours after the student completes all sessions of the test. So that's the important part, all sessions. Scores for the written responses will be added to the report after they are completed by the teacher. All right, so the response map will be available. There will be information here if the student completes all sessions of the test. Okay, so now what does the student response map look like if the student does complete all sessions of the test? So I'm going to show you what it looks like. So I'm moving it over. I'm going to go ahead and expand it. And I'm going to go ahead and go to page 1. So this is what a sample student report for the response map looks like. So it's called a response map because if you look at it, each item, see item 1 here, item 2, item 3, item 4, each item will indicate what the student's response is. So for example, in item 1, the student response was letter D. In item 2, the student response was letter A. And then also notice that the total possible points is listed and the total points earned by the student for each of those items is also indicated. So you might see some different colors here. So there's colors green and color yellow. So the green indicates that the student received the maximum number of points available. So basically it means that the student got the item correct. Notice here, see where it says 0? It's white. So this part's white. So that indicates that the student received 0 points for that item, indicating that the response was incorrect. And you can see that it was, because notice that for the student response was A and the correct response was C. Then you'll see a yellow. So yellow indicates that the student received partial points for that item. So some of that item response was correct and some of the item response was incorrect. All right, so those are the different colors you'll see. You'll see green, you'll see yellow, and you'll see white. Okay, Now, let's go back to the each item. So notice at item 1, there's a subcategory of each of those items. There's an item type, text complexity, and correct responses and student responses, total points possible, total points earned. For now remember this is ELA, so you will see text complexity. Now, the description of each of those subcategories is listed below. So if you go below here, you'll see that RL means reading literary text, RI means reading informational text, RV means reading vocabulary, and W means writing. Then the item type, MC means multiple choice, ESR means evidence-based selected response, and CR means constructed response. And then notice the text complexity. RA is readily accessible, MOD means moderately complex, VC means very complex. And then you'll see a B for blank. And I'll show you what that's going to look like in a little while. Okay, so this is what a response maps look like. And so it gives the student an idea of what their answer was, what the correct answer was, and then the points possible and how many points they earned. Okay, now let me scroll down a little bit further. So this is page 1. So notice it goes from items 1 all the way to item 27. And if I go to page 2, I want you to notice something. 41, it looks like 41 was the only item in which the student had to write something. So you see the W here? So remember W means writing. There's no score here. See there's nothing there? So that means that the teacher has not gone into educator scoring to give a score for that writing response. So that's why you don't see anything there. So if you see something like this, if there's no score there, then that indicates that the teacher has not gone into educator scoring and provided a score for that student. All right, so let's scroll down and let's take a look at math. So this is what math looks like. Now, let me mention this as well. So notice that for this particular student, see the student's names here, the LACID, the school. For that particular student, the student response map, both the ELA and the math were available. Sometimes the math won't be available, but the ELA will. So keep in mind that there will be situations where either one or both will be available. It may be a situation where none of the reports are available. And that means that the student has not completed all sessions of the test. So in order for students, in order for you to have a student response map, the student must complete all sessions of the test. Now, notice that in math, you have this is kind of the same idea. You have the green. Green indicates that the student got the item correct, received all maximum points. Remember, white right here indicates, we see where it says 0, so the student got the item incorrect. And notice there are no yellows here, so that indicates that there was no partial credit allowed. So that's what that means. Okay, now I want to go back up here to the first page and notice there's something called the reporting category, item type, the standard, and the rest of this is similar to what we did with the LA. So if you scroll down, the reporting category for math are indicated down here. The item type in math are either for the diagnostic is either going to be multiple choice or constructed response. And then B indicates blank. I want to go to the constructor response. So it looks like you see the item type, all of the items for the diagnostic part is multiple choice. All of them were multiple choice. There was one item for this particular grade level that was constructor response. And again, notice there is no score there. That means that the teacher has not gone into educator scoring and provided a score for that student. So that is what it's going to look like if the for the response map. And then the point here was that also if there's nothing here for the writing response or the constructed response, that the that it indicates that the teacher has not gone in educator scoring to provide a score. Still talking about the student response map, I want to show you what it looks like if if the teacher did go in and provided a score. So you see the writing response here, um, the item type constructed response, there's a score. So for ELA, for this particular grade level, the points possible was 10, and the teacher gave the student only 1 point. All right, see it's in yellow, so partial credit, only 1 point. So that's what it's going to look like. So if the teacher does go in, there's going to be something here. It's either going to be 0, or it's going to be partial credit, or it's going to be total number of points available. All right, so that's that part. The only other thing I want to mention about the student response map is the B for blank that we talked about earlier. So notice, I want you to see something here. So you see that right here where it says key B equals blank? You'll see it here where the total points earned for the constructor response. So you see right here where it says B, that means the student left it blank. That's what that means. Now I want to say one other thing. If the student leaves it blank, it will not go into educator scoring because there's nothing for the teacher to score. So if the student leaves it blank, the constructor response blank, nothing will be available in educator scoring for that student because there's nothing to score. The other thing I want to mention is this. I'm going to go back up here, and you see that the student responses, the student had some responses for items 28, 29, 30, and then all of a sudden for item 34, there was nothing there. So for the multiple choice or the selected items, if there's nothing there, then that means the student left it blank. The only time you're going to see the letter B, this letter B here, the only time you're going to see the letter B is for the constructor response. So where the student had to actually write something. So the student had to write something and there was nothing there, then that's where you're going to see the letter B. Okay, so that's what I wanted to mention about the student response map. Okay, so the next one we want to look at is the student summary report. Now remember, the only time you're going to get a student summary report for that student is if the student completes all part of the session of the test, all sessions of the test, and the teacher provided a score for the written response through educator scoring. Okay, so let's take a look at what that looks like. So it looks something like this. Let me go ahead and expand it. And this is what a student summary report looks like. So for this particular student, and this is ELA here. So this is ELA Form 1A. This is grade 5. So notice that it will indicate the percent of points earned for the subcategories. Remember, there are subcategories: reading literary text, reading information text, reading vocabulary, writing content, presentation, and conventions. Now, this part here is the writing part. That's the writing part. And then this part here is all the other items combined. All right, so the student, for the reading literary text, the student received 48% of the items correct. For the reading information text, the student received 44% of the items correct. And then reading vocabulary, the student received 67% correct. And then for the written response, the teacher gave the student 0 points, or I should say the student received 0 points. For the writing presentation, student received 0 points, and for the writing conventions, the student received 50 points out of 100. If I go down to page 2, still dealing with ELA, so it just breaks this down into, so it takes this right here, this part, and it breaks it down into a table. So notice that it will indicate the reading literary text. Out of 21 points, the student received 10. So you see that 48%. And then it says the subcategory dimension description. The student read and demonstrated comprehension of grade level fiction, drama, and poetry, and so on. So this is just a table form of the bar graph. All right, so that's the ELA. Now let's look at math. So for math, let's take a look at what that looks like. So same idea, you see the bar graph, and so you have your categories, operations and algebraic thinking. The student got 43% of those items correct. Numbered and operations based 10, the student got 43%. Now keep in mind that this is grade 5. So in middle school and high school, these categories will be different for the most part. And then notice you can go from a bar graph to a table. So we'll list the points earned and then the percent. So this percent you see here is actually this percent you see here. Okay, so that is the report called Student Summary Report. And again, you will either have it for both ELA and math, depending on if the student took all sessions of the test and the teacher graded or provided a score for the written response through educator scoring. So that is going to take care of the information available for the two student reports on student response map and the student summary report. If you have any questions on any of these, don't hesitate to contact us.